Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Hey, faithful listeners and thinkers. My name is Reese Roberts, and I'm the host of a new podcast called Entertain the Thought, now available on SoundCloud and www.reeseroberts.com. The website and podcast are focused on teaching consciousness and human evolution in current social conditions. As a free member on reeseroberts.com, you'll have access to curated content like videos and free book downloads. You can also schedule personal consulting services for teenagers, singles, and married couples. I also offer an enrichment training program that teaches students the fundamental arts of research and debate to increase their knowledge of self. The T-Team is now open for enrollment. For more information, please visit www.serveincorporated.com/register. Again, that's www.servincorporated.com/register. Thank you very much for tuning in to Debate Talk for You Radio.
All right, so today's topic, I wanted to really bring out some of the ideas about the energy that exists in the universe and what we're actually doing with it as we relate to each other as male and female partners. As far as trends are concerned, I am noticing that our men and women are seriously at odds and having this war, this battle of the sexes, and it's devastating to me. It kind of breaks my heart because we were created to be partners, and for us to be at war is completely detrimental to the mission that we should be on right now in order to fight our common enemy. So what I'm noticing is that women are feeling resentful towards men for understandable reasons, and men are feeling resentful for the same, very understandable reasons. But as far as the black man is concerned, in specificity, him specifically, I'm looking at his connection to his emotions and also the way he feels about his emotional intelligence and also his emotional communication with other people. I've noticed that black men, for some reason, really seriously reject emotional compatibility and emotional expression and emotional anything. I recognize that's because of social conditioning. It's because of spiritual attacks on the black man. But I do think that it's one of those things where we cannot, or I should say men should not continue to use those things as an excuse for remaining emotionally unintelligent and uncommunicative, because communication is heavily based on emotion. And because our men are not very equipped to move forward in their communications in a healthy way, it causes relationships to fail, and it causes them to sort of fall apart and end in disaster because they're not able to connect with a woman in her emotional language. And so I would like to talk to the brothers tonight about that and what they think could be done on their part to be proactive about it, to take action on it, and to actually see value in emotions in the first place. I'm noticing that a lot of brothers sort of reject the idea of emotions and they feel like it overpowers their logic. But in reality, what should be happening is men should be respecting their emotional compatibility with women so that they can actually connect on higher spiritual levels like women do. And Also, for very obvious reasons, it would give them better relationships at home, happy wife, happy life type of situation. It would make them happier to be able to express themselves and release emotions instead of suppressing them. Suppressed emotions causes depression, and it causes a whole lot of other side effects where basically if you don't express the emotion, if you repress it, then you have to deal with whatever kind of damage it's going to cause you because you have not let it out. So I would like to hear from the brothers. Anybody can take the first, chance to respond. And let's just talk about that. What do you guys feel about how your emotions are affecting your life or the lack thereof? How can you be proactive to start changing those things? Do you see any value in it? I know you should, but do you? And if not, why? Let's just talk about the details and the intricacies of your emotions.
Hey, Orthodox Moor, since you're new to the program, you want to begin? Got it.
I would love to. First of all, I think this is a great topic, first and foremost, because emotional intelligence is a very integral part of how we are, of our makeup as individuals, and it's something as African descent people we need to get on top of, because we went through a really stressful emotional situation, i.e. slavery, et cetera, and whatnot, and we're still traumatized, like epigenetically, from that concept. And so we need to understand the emotions from an intellectual level on how to deal with that and whatnot. And for instance, one of the things I see that most men don't recognize when they're dealing with our women, we're like a lot of times being on different panels on YouTube, et cetera, whatnot, I see to where the men speak to the women as if they're men. And then they force the women to actually communicate back to them as if they're men. And once they do, they start calling them wild and crazy and whatnot. And so I think the sister's bringing up a fantastic topic, because a lot of times men feel like when we talk to women in a way that they can understand that we're becoming less of a man. And I try to tell all my brothers and whatnot, like the Most High gave us strength so we could protect our women in their most vulnerable moments. Like in a state of nature, for instance, like when a woman is giving birth or she's nurturing your child or whatnot, that's her most vulnerable moment. That's literally why we have strength, to protect the family, not to dominate the family, right? So in a conversation, I shouldn't be dominating a woman or trying to dominate a woman or overtalk her or force her to overtalk me. Like there's a way like that. That's talking to men. That's how we get down. You know what I'm saying? Women communicate from a whole different level and whatnot. And so when a sister says emotional intelligence, I think that's a fantastic name for it, because what's interesting about emotions in the heart, so to speak, right, is physically we literally have two brains. We have our brain in our head, but a lot of people don't know that on our heart we literally have brain matter. That's actually what makes your the electrical impulses go back and forth in your heart to make your heart beat. So so when she says emotional intelligence, I love that concept, because I was thinking about like a heart brain. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's very integral that we understand how women communicate from their emotions and how emotions affect them, because they're going to naturally communicate different through their emotions than what a man is going to. And so a lot of times we interpret what a woman's saying through a male's lens, and try to have them interpret us through our lens, versus understanding how we're being understood through their lens. And so if we're going to be partners in this, we got to be partners in this. Like I come from a background that says like the Most High doesn't even listen to your prayers if you're not connected to your woman and what she needs. So I'll leave it right there and let's pick it up. Anyone else want to pick it up?
If they don't, I will, because you said something that I thought was very interesting, which I think should be kind of expanded. Talking about men having this rejection and sort of resistance to emotional intelligence, where I'm starting to, honestly, I have serious confusion and, this is perplexed nature about how can a man have emotions but not express or know the emotion. And I recognize this may be an ignorant sort of question in my mind, because I've never had to deal with being separated from myself in that way. But I'm wondering if guys even recognize that being a man does not mean you don't have a feminine principle, because all of us have a balance of masculine and feminine energy housed within our temples. Whether you be male or female, you have that energy inside of you to use at your convenience. And so I'm wondering if men are rejecting that feminine principle because of society. They don't want to be counted as homosexual. They don't want to be seen as soft. All these other, social ideas that are circulating around the feminine principle. And I guess the confusion, like I said, it comes from how do you feel sad about something, but you can't say I'm sad comfortably, or you feel, confused, or you feel hurt by something, but that somehow can't make it from your head to your mouth. I get almost angry when I'm noticing, for example, my husband and I suffer from this issue, and I can clearly see that he doesn't mean any harm, that he doesn't, it's nothing that he can control, but it's a serious type of roadblock where I'm like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And it just won't come out. And I'm like, what is that? How can it possibly be that you can have a whole emotional life that's going on in your 7 chakra centers of your body? And this is a scientific concept. And for some reason, those energies are flowing all the way through your body from the rooter to the tutor, and not one word of expression can come out of your mouth about how you feel and why. So, what is that? What is it? And is it fear? I don't know. Somebody please help me.
100% fear. So, men are extremely emotional and they express themselves emotionally, but just to other men, right? They have the sob story talks with each other and whatnot. I mean, they cry and they bear all day to each other. You know what I'm saying? But the issue is the men that they're talking to they're not in love with them, so they can't hurt them when they talk about their emotions. So, a woman, If you're my lady, you have the ability, if I'm being vulnerable with you, you have the ability to cut me at my deepest point, for instance, right? Let's say if you reject me when I'm being vulnerable, it hurt that scars men way deep, and they don't know how to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Just we're afraid that you're going to talk to us and not understand what we're saying. There's a big fear about that, right? And it's subconscious in a lot of ways. And a lot of that comes from not. And I really want my sisters to understand this. As black men, we're subconsciously still trying to figure out what does it mean to be a black man? Because how are we supposed to express ourselves emotionally as a black man? What does that even mean? Because going through a post-traumatic slave syndrome, in a situation, what does that mean? How is it okay for us to do it culturally? What's right for us to do? How all that type of stuff. Because we're being compared to other people. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at other races all the time and other nations all the time and whatnot, seeing how they do stuff. And do we imitate that? Do we do something different? It's a constant for men. There's a constant insecurity about how you're projecting yourself and how you're being perceived as a man and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of insecurity just underlying in being a man, a black man in this society. Period. That emotionally we don't tell our women that we're dealing with. Do you know what I'm saying? And we get with our homies and we vote on that concept. You know what I'm saying? And I think what you're talking about is we should be able to build with y'all about it, right? And start being able to talk to y'all about it, right? But so what we got to do is understand okay, when we're being vulnerable in that situation. If I've trained my woman to come at me like a man, then I'm going to get hurt. But if I learn how to talk to my woman in that language where she's talking from, you know what I'm saying? When I'm vulnerable with her, she's going to respect my vulnerability. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness, I'm going to give you a hand clap. They don't get it. I'm giving you a hand clap on that. They don't get that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Were you going to continue?
No, you got money, sister.
I just want to give an opportunity for guys to be able to change a paradigm when it comes to that fear. So imagine, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to try to give you a visual of what happens energetically when that scenario which you just described happens. A man is emotional and he wants to express himself to his woman because they are having some difficulties in their relationship. So she's desperately pleading for him to express, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is bothering you? What is keeping you from me? Why are you emotionally cut off? Why are you silent? What is going on inside of you that is taking you away from me and our family and, our intimacy levels? What is it? When the man allows the fear to come over his emotional expression and suppress that, what ends up happening is the woman that he should be loving by way of his expression, he ends up being cold towards her and hurting her the same way he is fearing being hurt himself. He's passing that hurt along to her by shutting her out and making her feel like she's an outsider in her own relationship. You completely strip a woman of her power when you are not able to emotionally connect with her, because her power lies in her emotional connection to this universe. Women are feminine divine. That's everything to do with the moon and our celestial, the celestial phases of the moon. And you know that pulls on our emotions magnetically. And so when a woman is not able to use that power, she automatically becomes helpless and hopeless, and she becomes disabled in her own ways. And it sort of, that's like the seed of where the destruction of the relationship comes from. And it's also the seed of where this war between the man and woman comes from, because we're steadily trying to say and show that we mean no harm, that we're here to build a man up and to sort of be this gatekeeper or this secret keeper, so to speak. I don't know if men really noticed what's actually happening as far as trends are concerned, but women pride themselves on being loyal when they're a good woman. I know there are plenty of scallywags and chicken heads out there that don't care if they do it to your boyfriend, your homeboys, or your daddy, your uncle. They don't care. But when you've got yourself a good woman, a part of her pride, is the fact that she's holding you down. But if you take that ability from her to hold you down because she has completely no clue what's going on with you, she doesn't even know what to give you. If you're feeling unloved but not saying why, then how is she going to respond and give you love? You've completely taken her power from her, making her feel ineffective, making her feel unloved in her own ways. And these dynamics are the things that I want brothers to understand. And I know you may have a very special perspective because you are affiliated with the Hebrew Israelites. And I know you can tell, just based on what you said, how brothers shut down the feminine divine principle of emotional expression. They always say, oh, you're just having an emotional outburst. Oh, you're just being emotional, not logical. And I hate to hear that because I'm like, where did y'all start this idea that human interaction was only logical expression? That's a completely westernized idea that all we should be doing is using logic to communicate with each other. We were given a head and a heart, just like you said, and they are supposed to work in tandem. But our brothers losing that concept, they're losing themselves. They're losing their women. They're losing a lot because they're allowing this fear and this westernized mind to come over them and say, oh, she going to think you soft. She's going to manipulate you. She's going to tell all your homeboys, or she's going to, dishonor you in some kind of way. Black women are not set up like that. Not me, not my kind, not my homegirls, not my mama, not my auntie, none of us. Not any real woman that I've ever met is ever getting ready to intentionally tear a man down. My whole life I've been taught to build a man up, to serve your man, make his plate first, iron his clothes, make sure that you're keeping the house decent. I've always been taught to be in my role. And so most women are. And that's why I'm thinking that it's social conditioning, really, that is the biggest of our problems when it comes to this relationship issue. And even on a grander scale, I just want to throw this out there, it's hurting our community relationships. Because men are not connected with their emotional intelligence, what's happening in the community is even a greater expense that we're having to pay because men are not connected emotionally. The type of protection that we need in our communities, that's supposed to be happening from our emotionally intelligent men. But if they're not coming up with emotional strength, with some kind of courage, some kind of diligence about what's going on in their home, and with their children out here that are being raised without them, there's a lot of stuff going on emotionally with these guys, and they are just simply not catching on to the fact that it's because they're not expressing themselves emotionally. So I'm going to let y'all talk now. I think I said enough.
Can you define for me emotional intelligence or emotion? Can you define for me emotion? Because I think emotions have a broad range. Anxiety is an emotion. Anger is an emotion. Sadness is an emotion. Like, so when we say
that's it.
So that'll help me like frame, because I think that men do express emotion, maybe not the ones that a woman would want to see as frequently, but I think they do express emotion. So can you define what emotion particularly you're talking about?
That is precisely it. I'm going to agree with that. Everything you just said, anxiety, fear, love, intimacy. I mean, I shouldn't say intimacy, but, anger, the things that you just encounter in your everyday life. You came home frustrated and something happened, or you got afraid because somebody said, something that made you afraid. I don't know, just whatever. I've never seen a man express himself that openly about things. And I mean, I will recognize that guys have their own forms of emotional expression, and it may not just be coming out right and saying things, but I'm not really familiar with other ways of expressing. Clearly, I'm a talker, so talking for me is the most prominent way of expressing myself. So I don't know if you guys have other ways of expressing, but, I'd be happy to recognize it if it was there.
I think talking is a major way of expressing emotions, because I mean, in a relationship, communication is key, and I think what a lot of guys don't understand is with a woman, like if you're not communicating, like that's literally like a danger for the relationship, like that's like an attack on the relationship for them. Like y'all need information, you know what I'm saying? Almost like constant updates and whatnot. Like, so if I like you're saying, like if I'm going through something and I'm not communicating with you, you see that there's a storm brewing. You just don't understand all the ingredients and whatnot. And like you're saying, a good woman's going to want to help. Like, how can I help hold you down? How can I help hold you down during the storm? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? And this is where I'm saying, like, where a lot of us as men have to recognize, and this is where I need my sisters to have some patience with us on something, right? Like, we don't have either individually, uniformly, or in different sects. We really don't have like a rites of passage system that most of the men go through. We don't have an older man telling us it's okay to express yourself X, Y, and Z in this way to a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I'm saying, like, a lot of we could be grown men communicating like we're 12 years old, because we literally like you're saying, like you said something about a social conditioning. This is our social conditioning. We don't have a fully functional nation that we're a part of. You know what I'm saying? We're related, yeah, but we're still figuring out like what's okay, what's not okay. Like, so we're gonna have to tell our children this is how you do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? And start that whole process. But we got to figure it out within ourselves and whatnot. So in that, like, again, like you're talking about, like a lot of men talk about, like you got to stick with the logic concept. Like, so for me, I do it again. My background stipulates that wisdom is a feminine principle, and she builds her house on 7 pillars and whatnot. And so wisdom is the concept of logic with experience. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, like you're saying, the woman needs to understand me verbalizing my experience so she can understand the logic of what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Because for a lot of women, from what I understand, is if they're looking for, they're hearing me talk, but they got a question. We're like, why are you saying what you're saying? Like, so, and if I can express myself, like, you know what, I just had a bad day, or this, that, and the third, they could be like, oh, I can understand why your voice is sharp now, or I can understand why you said something, or why you were short with me, whatever. Cool. And it can be, and most men, like, for them, men remember that stuff. They don't forget that stuff. For women, it can be water under the bridge once they understand the emotion. And I think that's what the sister's talking about, is because a lot of times, like I was saying in the beginning of time, men create a self-fulfilling prophecy with their women, in the sense to where they're afraid of being hurt when they're being vulnerable, and like the woman is the person who can hurt you the most when you're vulnerable as a man. So they end up conditioning their woman to communicate to them like a man. You know what I'm saying? And so, so when they actually do become vulnerable and break down in front of the woman responds like a man, and so the man gets hurt. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Deep.
Can I say something? Hi, everyone. This is Jennifer. This is a really great topic. And, I always say there's nothing more frustrating than being in a relationship, or any type of relationship, and communication is limited. Because without communication, how are we supposed to understand one need? Like, I communicate about my needs, and my issues. You communicate with me about your needs and your issues, and that's how we can come together and, you know, become one and, you know, cohabitate with one another. So I wanted to bring up something I was thinking about when you were talking, and I was thinking, like, you know, it all goes back, and I'm all about going back, and I like to go back into childhood. Okay, why is a person the way they are? Most likely, you know, if you study psychology, a lot of people are the way they are because of things that they experience in their early years of life, in their childhood. You know, molestation and abuse and abandonment. And a lot of our black, especially in the black community, men, women, men as well, but when men experience abuse and trauma, you know, they're taught to, like, sweep it under the rug. You know, you don't talk about that. You just deal with it. So when they're in a relationship with a female, it's like, if they're not open and honest with the female, say, hey, I've been molested by my uncle or by somebody in my family, and this is something I have to literally battle with for the rest of my life because I didn't ever seek help for it. So now it goes, you know, it kind of spills out into the relationship, and it's kind of awkward. It's like, what is wrong with this person? Like, why is he not communicating with me? Why is he acting like this? And if he's not communicating with me, telling me, hey, I've been molested or I've been abandoned as a child, or, you know, I lost my mom, I lost my dad, you know, kind of creates some type of friction in a relationship. And I think it's very important for the communication aspect of the relationship so your partner can have a clear understanding why you act the way you act, why you respond the way you respond, like what it is that, you know, don't leave me in question. Talk to me, communicate. You're going to be in a relationship with me, talk to me. You should feel comfortable telling me what happened to you so I can have a better understanding to why you behave the way you behave. So I definitely want to bring that point up because, you know, I always, when I talk to somebody, I always ask them, like, how was your childhood? Well, you know, what is your story? And that's the gateway for them to come and tell me, talk to me. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm understanding. Help me understand why you are the way you are so we can work this out together.
So Jennifer, you just said something. You just said something that was extremely important, Jennifer. They don't understand that we are understanding.
Yes, we are.
They don't.
Yes,
they don't. They really do not understand that we're understanding about things, and I think that's where that fear comes from. But there's a whole other paradigm about communicating deep, dark secrets or whatever in trust. First of all, you chose me as your partner. Second of all, you're supposed to love me, and you're supposed to know that I love you. If those things are not foundationally understood, then why are we together? You know, if you don't think that I understand you and that I'm going to, you know, cater to your needs emotionally, that, you know, why are you sleeping in my bed? Why are you in my body? Why are you having me have your children? You know, to me, this is a separate way that men ought to be looking at us because they're choosing us. Now, I can see if you wasn't choosing a black woman because you feel like we don't have this, that, or the other, but it's no reason to choose a partner that you consider to be your enemy. And that, to me, is a clear indication that we're not really cool. If you can't talk to me like you talk to your homeboys because you cooler with your homeboys than you are with me, then we shouldn't be having sex. We should not be getting married. We should not be having a family. We should not be doing anything until we can establish a foundational basis of trust. And I think this is something that our men are, and I guess this is going to lead me into my next questions about this topic is it should cause our men to be more active at getting to the root of the problem. I see more brothers advocating for the lack of emotional intelligence than I do for those who want to try to get it right. And I think that's an ego thing because they feel like they don't want to humble themselves or they don't want to soften themselves and they don't want to appear a certain way. So this ego stops them from saying, hey, you know, I kind of need to express my emotions to this woman. You know, I need to, like, buckle down and talk to her about this, that, or the other. I need to, you know, let her in because this woman is banging on my door.
Again. I have to ask again also. I believe that men show certain emotions more than others. So, and generally speaking, I'm not speaking for all men, men. But, hey, if I'm sad, I can say, hey, this is why I'm sad. If I can say I'm angry and don't want to talk about it, I think I have that right, because it's important for a man, whether you're married or living with a woman or not, and creating children by her, to reserve the right to be intentional about how you communicate what you're communicating, because sometimes anger is an energy that's like electricity, right? And if you study electrical current, if it's not attached to a neutral, then it can cause a spark and create a whole bunch of damage, right? So it has to be grounded. So I can reserve the right and say, I'm really angry, or have facial expressions, and you don't need to know why at the moment, as long as it's not direct. I'm not directing that energy towards you, because certain emotions carry energy that is not productive, and it's better, in my estimation, that some of that energy is neutralized before it is conveyed, if you will. And in conjunction with that, I know in my house, I have a general rule that we try to play by, which is you have to name your emotion, right? If we in a conversation and you start feeling whatever, then okay, you have to say, hey, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling sad, because when emotions are present and that emotion is announced, it goes for me and my spouse. If it's present and it's announced, then we can be aware that the emotion is physically in the room, so to speak, and we have to address how to deal with each other with that emotion present. So, for example, not the scenario is present, but utility bill come and it's a shut-off notice. And, hey, I'm feeling one type of way, spouse feeling another type of way, and when she sees it, I feel anxious, but doesn't announce it. And then, running around clamoring pots, or however people convey their emotion, or washing dishes, whatever people do to convey their emotion, saying, I feel anxiety. Okay, I may look at the same thing that my wife looks at and feel no anxiety, right? But I think when emotions are present, which emotions and when emotions are present, I just generally prefer that people have a practice of saying the emotion that's present so we can name it, claim it, and work with it. But I do believe that men express emotions. Not all of them. You come across, I think, Brother Mo was talking about, you got brothers who, I'm probably one of them, not to that extreme, but I do try to think logically, right? I know when I hear the conversation about emotion, what I hear being said, which is probably not being said, is just crying all the time. I don't have nothing to cry about because I'm not a victim, right? I don't care what happened to me. As far as I'm concerned, I've never been molested, so that's not. I can't even speak from that viewpoint. But my vantage point in life is I don't care what happened to you, mostly because nothing has ever really happened to me like that, like nothing, right? Then get up, pull yourself by the bootstrap, and get yourself together. But I don't have that set of experiences, right? So I can navigate the world like that. Or somebody else who's been prey to somebody's predatoring, they have to operate the world differently. But I'm going back to say I think men do have emotion, and I also think it's present. You got to name it, claim it, and then when we can navigate it while it's present in our own.
I like that. What do you say about the dynamic of cultural conditioning, social conditioning? Because I'm not sure which age range you're in, but one thing I love to talk about is the evolution of music and how it parallels to the evolution of the Black community. In the 60s, this was, I want to be free, I want to be free to love you. You know what I'm talking about? That was the way the music was sounding back there. We were talking about love. We're talking about being open with each other. We're talking about courting, dating. This is the way the music was back in the doo-wop days. So brothers, I believe, from that era, of course, they're a lot more inclined to use that tone, that language when it comes to a woman. I'm a woman that's always been mature. I'll be 32 in a couple of months, but in my dating life, I always dated guys at least like 5 to 10 years older than me because I knew that about them. I knew that they were more inclined to treat me softly than a young brother that was my age talking about, back that thing up. Girl, you look good. Let you back that. I wasn't looking for that type of treatment. And so I recognize that there are some men that exist in these current times, but they're a little older when they know how to communicate with a woman, how to woo a woman, so to speak. And those type of brothers, they come few and far between in the younger crowd. It's not very often that you'll find a man in your quote-unquote millennial generation that is going to just know how to be on that level of gentle, Casanova type of behavior with a woman. And I recognize that there's heavy social conditioning that's involved in that mentality. And, I feel like there's an opportunity for older brothers to mentor to younger dudes. But even that, to me, has emotional implications where older men would need to see the need for it and be emotionally connected to the need for it to even get started, to go out into the communities and say, listen, young brothers, we got programs for you. We have, educational resources for you. We have practice, maybe we could show you some things that you can kind of break this down so that you can operate better in this lane with your woman. There are so many messages, so much propaganda out there that is preaching to these brothers that women are no good, that we're just on a pole, that we're just getting butt shot injections, that we just want money. This is the primary messaging that's going out to brothers in today's society, and it is crippling them when it comes to relationships because, like my brother said, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. They are assuming these things from cultural conditioning, social conditioning, and they're projecting it onto the women, forcing it to be true. If you're going to treat a woman like all she wants is your money and all you want to do is have sex with her, then it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you treat her like all you want to do is have sex because you believe all she wants is money, guess what? You're going to approach her that way, and she's going to approach you that way. She's going to return that energy right back to you. And so it's, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You finish your thoughts, sis.
No, that was it. I talk a lot. Go ahead.
Oh, peace to everybody. This is Vinny D. I'm just chiming in right now. I was going to add to that, that was some great points you made. I was going to say, one of the problems is, we feed off of each other. That's not a problem, but the way that we feed off of each other is the problem because it's through negativity. And it's those. I think personally, I feel it's all based on what we've been taught and the way that we've been raised. Ever since we've been, I say from our cultural identity, which is communal identity. Now it's like we're all
move your phone a little bit. You're breaking up.
And hold on. Yeah, I think it's is that better?
Yeah, it is much better.
Okay. So I think it's like we try to one-up each other, and then the things that we one-up each other with are all based on, evil communications, Like there's a great saying that I always like to reference, and it says, evil communication corrupts good manners, So if all we do is listen to some evil communications, then it's definitely going to corrupt our good manners, And then I think what we fall into that trap of trying to one up each other with these evil things, because those communications tell us that these are good things. You know what I'm saying? And it's all based on the communities that we grow up in and the teachings that we've been taught for years, And I think we have to break that cycle. And I was listening to what you guys were saying a little bit earlier about, the kids and stuff. I think we have to break that cycle and then we have to go, start focusing more on the kids, because adults are pretty hard to change. Adults will come and go as they please, but if we just allow, people to keep teaching these kids that, it's cool to be out there disrespecting our women, or it's cool to be out there, destroying our communities, whether it be by selling dope or whether it be by, me mugging somebody or, whatever the case, if we don't stop that, then like you said, I don't think we'll ever get back to that first identity that we once had before we start straying away from what we are or what we knew, So, I yield.
Can brothers do anything about it? First of all, can women help you in any way to connect back to this emotional intelligence? Whereas it's not like the social conditioning is not stronger than your willpower to express. Can we do anything? Can we change anything about ourselves? Can we change anything about how we're approaching the situation? I know I get frustrated a lot. That's probably not helping, but I don't really know. I've tried all kind of different approaches in my situation. But, I'm kind of at my wit's end. I don't know what other way to approach it because I can't really relate. So, I would like to talk solutions a little bit and just talk about, is there any proactive thing that men or women can do for this to change for the better?
Yes, first and foremost, we both can start organizing rules of courtship like you were talking about. You're talking about an era of music where courtship was being talked about. That when you go back to the era of music, what you're going to find is that it's closer to an era where the black family was more unified. Coming out of slavery, we were more of a cohesive unit. And after we started getting commercially viable and whatnot, we started getting attacked from the outside and whatnot, and we started getting split up and whatnot. We had political intervention from both parties. We had all kind of intervention happening and whatnot to where we're more divided as a family and whatnot now, right? And so one of the first things we need to do is not treat relationships as if they're so willy-nilly, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's the foundation of our community and whatnot. So we need to respect ourselves and each other by having rules of engagement on how we court each other. And this is what I'm saying about recognizing like with the post-traumatic slave syndrome concept and coming out of it is recognizing that
Hello.
That we need to establish what I say. We need to establish our own set of rules basically, and how we engage with each other and whatnot. Our own rites of passage system, right? And a proper courtship system is part of a rites of passage system. You're taught this is how you interact with the woman. This is how you respect the woman. This is the rules of engagement for that. You know what I'm saying? And if you break the rules of engagement, the community sees you as less than. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I'm with that. Women also, I think that might be a applicable rule for both sides. I was not raised to have standards and no standards. I was raised to just simply serve. That was the way the women in my family, I come from a majority female family, and the women in my family, they were just always about showmanship basically. But I never was taught to develop standards for myself or for my body or for just my life. I wasn't taught to get to know myself and make my requests be known. So I do think that could be a great starting point for all parties involved, is to set some expectations up front about how this thing is going to go, because not being able to connect with the person that you live your everyday life with and not being able to serve them by knowing them because they know themselves, that's just not going to work. It just will not suffice in this spiritual war that we're in the midst of right now. We have to be able to serve each other properly. And for us not to know each other, for us not to express to each other, I know for a fact there's no service in that. There's no service in that. And to me, that's useless. I can't do nothing with a man that I can't serve.
Yep, that's the truth. And you know what's weird is, like, any project that you take on, like in terms of building, whether you build a fence or you building a house when you're starting off with a foundation or anything, the easiest way to build that foundation and make sure that it's straight is to have like this string that you attach to like these sticks. You know what I'm saying? Where you lay it out and you know that it's going to be straight when you start digging or doing anything with it. You know, so what you guys were just talking about was that foundation. You know, that foundation or those expectations have to be set so that you can, you know, even though you might venture off away from those expectations or that line, you know, you always can come back to that line because you know what the expectation is, if that makes any sense.
All right, just let you know we have Sheek Attiba here. Jennifer's still here though. Jennifer, go ahead.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm about to log off and go to work soon. I just want to say one thing about you know, each person should definitely take responsibility, you know, for their actions because, you know, we are the future. We are the leaders right now. We are the ones where the younger generation are looking up to us. And we can just take initiative and be mindful of how we do things and how we interact. And, you know, relationship-wise, you know, let's be that nation. Let's be that generation where we are the example for the youth to follow, you know, relationship-wise. You know, we can teach them how to communicate. Let's teach them that we're forgiving and that we're not always hopping from relationship. We are into, you know, forgiving and working things out and just finding other ways of going around working things out. So I just want to leave that last note. If we can just be mindful and just know that we have little people looking at us and looking up to us, and let's try to lead by example. You know, that's something, because I'm all for the younger youth, and I'm like, if we can lead by example, because we are in those our parents' shoes. You know, we had our parents, we had our aunts to look up to. Like we're now we're that generation, and let's just be mindful that we are the leaders right now. So let's try to lead effectively. Let's try to be proactive. Let's try to lead by example, definitely. But I'm gonna let everybody go because I'm about to go to work as well. But this was a great topic. I definitely appreciate it.
Peace, sis.
Happy
Have a good
birthday,
night.
Jennifer. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, but I definitely think that the ground rules have to be set, you know, and then also another thing is like if somebody is checking you about the right thing to do, you know, we can't take it offensively, you know. I think that's one of the hang-ups as well that kind of destroys the unity of the man and the women togetherness, you know. I think that we definitely need to be able to accept correction, you know, whether it's from the wife or the spouse or the woman or and the man. It goes both ways, you know. And I think that's another thing I think got away from like the purpose of a meaningful relationship. You know, it's like looks matter, you know, but I think that's the main priority that we place. You know, the looks are the number one priority that's emphasized in most of our relationships because we don't know how to find a spouse or we don't know how to find a wife, you know, or a husband because, you know, we got, instead of our elders teaching us, we got like these music or these TV shows or these commercials, everybody telling us which is the right way to go, you know, instead of our own selves. So we're kind of transforming into, I know the Bible calls it Hellenized, you know. We're becoming Hellenized into another culture that you know, really don't have nothing to do with us except for the fact that we're here, you know. And we got to just take it back to those roots, you know, examine our roots and then get with some, you know, have some elders and then just, you know, if we start straying and we don't know nothing, then we go to the elders or we go to other people because, you know, fresh ideas are always a good idea. Now, even if you don't agree with those ideas, it's something to ponder on, you know. And I yield.
Yeah, I think an important thing to look at too is that we live in the most disconnected communities we've ever had in this country. Like for instance, in my father's generation, he went to a segregated school to where like his school teacher used to whoop his butt in the street when he was cutting up. You know what I'm saying? Or like an old head would sit him down and give him some game and whatnot. In our current generation, we don't live that close. We're not that tight knit. And if I'm an old head and I see a young cat cutting up, I'm gonna look the other way because that young cat's not gonna treat me with the same respect that it used to be back in the day. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to recognize that
point.
we have to choose to be a community on purpose. You know what I'm saying? And start making these rules and whatnot. Like for instance, I got a bunch of West African homies, right? And so and part of this concept of having a community with rules of engagement and rites of passages. For instance, like a lot of my West African homies, their worst fear is that their wife is gonna go grab their mom. You know what I'm saying? Because culturally, you know what I'm saying, they have a certain standard they have to uphold, and so in community, if they're breaking certain rules, they got to get held to a standard. You know what I'm saying? So like if you literally go bring the parents into it, the family into it, all kind of stuff to get stuff settled and whatnot. And so like my West African homies, like man, their moms be cussing them out all day about how they're treating their ladies and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, treat your wife better, blah blah blah. All it's hilarious. You know what I'm saying? And they have to uphold it. You know what I'm saying? And so like the wife and the mother-in-law, you know what I'm saying? They have a particular relationship to where they uphold the standard of womanhood. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's not like, oh, they're ganging up on me. It's like no. If you got a daughter, she got to see what this is. She has to understand what this is. Do you know what I'm saying? If you have a son, they're growing up understanding the respect for this level of womanhood, etc. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it's the same thing with the men though. Like if they're not being respected, the same thing goes back. So like there's this constant understanding. If you're a kid, you're seeing this interaction between the man and the woman and the communal structure thereof that we're not seeing now. We're in a situation to where we're being told what our culture is. Like you know what I'm saying? We're told we're told what Blackish is on TV. You know what I'm saying? We're commercially told what our culture. We don't make our culture. We're told what it is. It's manufactured for us. You know what I'm saying? So we need to recognize and own that and be like, no. It's our responsibility to make our culture for ourselves. Do you know what I'm saying?
Can somebody do a rites of passage brand that we can bring to the commercial market where there's after-school programs or some kind of something where that can happen? I mean, I'm not just saying that to the guys here, but, I mean, maybe y'all should start those conversations, like little campfires in your communities because, I mean, women, we're a little different. Or when it comes to us coming of age, it's sort of like a natural thing. Women are naturally mature. And so for us to become mature is just growing up. You know, we're grown to take care of babies. We're grown to know how to cook and know how to do this, that, and the other. This is like a natural evolution for us. But for y'all to have a rites of passage, you know, y'all might want to start talking about those kind of things to do it, you know, maybe commercially, because that is one way that we are seeing trends born in our culture is through commercial activity, you know, where we're talking about businesses and brands being started to start movements. You know, it might be something for the brothers to consider, whoever is listening, to do the mind and the heart to do it. Go on and make a brand so we can get these little boys and whip into shape. Because if I ever have a daughter, she's going to have to be taken care of.
Yeah, I hear that.
I think it's a good thing for women to do as well. Not to cut you right quick. I'll say this real quick and get off. Like so, I was reading a book on like the San or the Pygmies or whatever. Not the San Pygmies, but a different group of Pygmies or whatnot. The Twa Pygmies or whatnot. And for instance, they have rites of passage for the men and the women and whatnot, and then communal rites of passage. You know what I'm saying? Where they do things together and whatnot. But one of the things that the women did is like so they had this particular ceremony where when a young woman had gotten her first period or whatnot, they would bring all the women around from certain tribes, from certain areas or whatnot, and they would have a celebration for it. You know what I'm saying? Because she now has the power to give life and whatnot. Do you know what I'm saying? And so there was a big communal understanding, like now that you have this power to give life, you have these responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like there was this whole like ceremony to where like she's being taught this by the older women, like the grandmother's age, mother's age, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? And then the women of her age, the young girls, all had roles to play. You know what I'm saying? And then for instance, they got to do stuff like they got to go like beat up the boys with sticks and stuff like that. And like the boys had this like the boys were told you got to sit there and take it. Okay, you can't do nothing right now. You got like this is their time. You got to take it. You know what I'm saying? And like if you fight back, we got to deal with you. You know what I'm saying? So like, but I'm saying like it's important on both sides for us to understand. Understand like we both have to have sets of rites of passage. So like it's the men and the women got to think about this.
I agree. I like the idea.
True.
I think we all should start doing that and paying attention to it. It's just too important for us to neglect it. and especially because we are in such times, because we're the only culture that doesn't have a culture that is well defined by ourselves. These are the things that we have to start looking at, creating our own traditions that are not westernized. I mean, we just have to get back to our roots, and these are the reasons why that stuff is important. I think that might be one of our shortcomings, is that we don't necessarily understand why cultural history is important and what it's doing to us to not have it. I think, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind for us, so we think that we're okay, but we're really not okay without a cultural history, without any type of cultural reference to honor. And, this is definitely something that is a reason why we're crippled in this society. And every other world stage player has a cultural history that they can honor and ground themselves in and be rooted. We don't have that luxury, and again, it is crippling. I can see it in several different manifestations of how we interact socially, and we just really have to get a hold on it in one way or another. So yeah, I think that's it. You guys, I honestly do have to go as well. I'm getting ready to go and do my little wind down for the night. So.
All right, Sis Reese. Great topic, and yeah, definitely. Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Peace to you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Y'all, I'll see you next week.
All right. Hey, Brother Moore, when you was talking about the community and how you said your dad, the teachers used to spank your dad, right?
Yeah,
hey,
in
bring
the
me
street,
back to
bro.
the story. Hey, my parents always used to talk about that, right? And then even my older cousins, they got it too, because I know you're up there in up north in the Seattle area, right? And
yeah, but my family's from Alabama and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say I used to live up on off of 23rd, a couple of blocks down from Garfield, right?
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and I don't know how old you are. I'm 42, and then
I'm 37.
I got. Okay, so you're close.
Right.
And you might even know some of my family members up there. But it was my aunt stayed on the house she lived in. My cousins grew up in this house. It was like 2 blocks away from Garfield. And it would bring me back to this one time where my cousin cut school, and he took, he had a girl out there, and he he's in there with her, and they doing their business, whatever they doing, right? And my aunt is coming home, so he hops out his room was upstairs, and it had like this little roof over the porch. He hops out the roof. Him and that girl is out there on the roof, and they ain't got no clothes on, right? And the lady next door is an older black lady. Right? She was kind of like the mother, or the grandmother of the area. And she's sitting up there looking at him, and he's looking down. And he's like, I hope she ain't gonna tell on me. And the first thing that happened was she went over there and told my aunt where they was.
I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? So that community,
Big Mama on the block holding it down. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, man. Yeah. So that community is definitely a big part of it, man. And I think another place where we go wrong is where we don't allow the community to raise a child. Everybody,
right.
If you say something wrong to somebody, you try to correct the kid or something, the parents get mad at you. Like, don't be talking to my kids, I'll discipline my kids, and which I can understand, because some people don't know how to do it. They take it too far,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a fine line between love and abuse, but I think that the community needs to get back into raising the community, and building
right.
the community instead of being individuals, because
mm-hmm.
every mostly all the Eastern cultures that I've looked into or that I've heard about or I've studied or dabbled in, they always teach that two makes one. You know what I'm saying? Like the
mm-hmm.
women, you got one woman and one man, that equals one. And a woman and a man is just, counterparts to that one, and
right.
if you have that unity between both of you guys, and then you have a strong community that's building just like that, then I think it benefits everybody, because the kids also grow up and they start seeing things. Prime example, and then I'll rest my case, is like raising kids, right? If you got two parents that are split up on two ways, right, then the kid can come in between and play you, because kids are very smart, and they're very manipulative. They can be very manipulative, and they can be very convincing at the same time, right? So you got one parent saying no, right, and then they like, okay, well, I know that if I go to mom or if I go to dad, then he'll overturn that decision. You know what I'm saying? He'll let me do it, and now you got secrets being tossed around. Then you got, the dad or the mom is looking like, dang, you're not going to support me, and then the kid doesn't see support. The kid sees division. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's that's very strong and a very important factor is being able to be one, in strength and in decision making, so that the kids can see that, and then they grow up to aspire to be that, instead of that divisive thing that's going on nowadays. And I yield with that.
Yeah, I'm with that, and that's where the communication that the sister's talking about is so important, because, I come from the tradition that says, like you're talking about, like the man and the woman cling to each other and become one flesh. You know what I'm saying? You're one, whether you understand it or not. You know what I'm saying? So your energy's got to be one energy when you're dealing with stuff, because if your children see division, they're going to reproduce division. If they see unification, they're going to reproduce unification.
I like to.
Go ahead. Please go ahead. Please.
I like to weigh in on that. That's definitely true. And so, I'm a teacher, I was a teacher, but I'm a principal now. And so I've seen kids with situations where their families are kind of divided. And so what I try to do, and this is a solution for those out there who may be dealing with two-parent, even in two-parent households, parenting styles are very different. And so you have to come to agreements, right? But especially if you don't have each other in the home and those children are going back and forth, one of the great things to do is to develop a plan. When we receive this at school, how are both households going to respond? And those things kind of reinforce what's going on in school. So, for example, if a child does well on an assignment and gets a good call home, what is home going to do? And if both households can agree and implement the same thing, then we're reinforcing schools, they're reinforcing each other, and the child feels that there's some congealing of the forces that are in their lives, And so, but it's crazy. People are so emotional about everything, that these plans can't even get put in place, I'm fighting because I want custody. No, I want custody. Okay, but it doesn't matter who has custody. Somebody may have custody at a given point. You still have to be on the same team. And so the emotionality is what I see is the biggest problem, and it is what's manifesting in these children's lives daily, So as long as you can get on the same page, whether you're in a home, whether you're doing two separate homes, it will work to reinforce the child and work with the school. Now, the reason why everybody can't discipline children is because people remember a time when some adult was unfair with them. So they get defensive about their children, and they don't want certain people, disciplining their children, especially in the school system. We can see that discipline is, heavy towards the African-American demographic, regardless of where you're at, So this is why people have gained distrust with that. But, there's ways around that, too. And I want to go back to something. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, but I was listening for a while. But there's also, we do not have what's that called, the model of how we should be and how we should do, You know, things that are normalcy to us, such as yelling, you know, screaming when you're mad, that's abuse. The cold shoulder is abuse, a form of abuse. Control is a form of abuse. You know, to have a healthy, happy relationship, you have to be able to sit down, talk, listen, and exchange. And if that's not going on, then that's not a healthy relationship. So we need to acquire the skills to actually learn how to communicate effectively and deal with each other respectfully. I think when we don't, it just adds up and adds up and adds up until I can't take it no more, you know. And you don't forget what somebody said when it really hurt and, you know, things like that. So we have to do better on acquiring those skills, then being the model, then teaching our kids, even amongst their siblings. You do not yell at your siblings just because you're having a bad day or just because you're mad and irritated. You tell them how you feel and seek for them to listen and reciprocate. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of that starts with us having to be adults and recognizing we have to forgive ourselves for the situations we're in, and also learn how to communicate from that point. You know what I'm saying? For instance, one sister was talking about, like, let's say you were molested, whatnot. Like, I was molested when I was a kid, right? So I make it a point, like, whenever I'm in a relationship, I explain that to the woman that I'm with, right? And like, so if I need to express myself a certain way, like, so for instance, I tell them, like, hey, if don't come up behind me and grab me from behind, right? You need to understand, don't do that. That might trigger something with me, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to be affectionate, I need you to be affectionate in certain kind of ways, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I have to be grown enough to explain that to her, and I have to be grown enough to understand and mature enough to understand, like, the implications of me not explaining that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that means I have to have the conversation with myself to understand how things affected me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can't run from things, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So we, as a black family, black man, black woman, have to understand where we're coming from, what situations we're in. So, for instance, like, my father was married. I watched him get married 7 times to 5 different women, right? And so, one thing I learned from him was this concept of not every relationship is going to work out, no matter how much you want it to, right? So let's say it doesn't work out, and like the sister's talking about, we got kids left over, right? Let's communicate. Like, we couldn't communicate for us, cool, but for the sake of the kid, there's certain things we got to be able to not take it out on him that we didn't work out. Cool. Let's forgive each other for us not working out, and let's build the best communication structure we can for our kid. We couldn't communicate. Maybe we could communicate, just maybe we weren't the best for each other. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? We need to be able to break up on good terms for the sake of our child. And set up the best communication structure for him, so he can see, even if things don't work out, because the kids got to realistically understand this. Hey, you know what? You need to understand that we are people coming through a post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know what I'm saying? That me and your mom got together too soon. We didn't have a rites of passage system. That we didn't court each other properly. You know what? And we made a baby probably before we should have. But that doesn't mean we don't love you. We both love you, and we love each other enough to recognize that we're not the best for each other. So we're not with each other right now. However, we're still going to build the best system we can for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and I think that goes back to what Brother Moses was talking about naming that emotion. You know, and that exercise that he and his family does. You know, because if you can name it, then it's easier to communicate, and then it's easier to accept correction at the same time. And then it doesn't allow that emotion to consume you, you know, because the way I look at emotions or feelings, I look at them as all spirits, right? If you experience something good, then you feel good. You know, there's a loving spirit that comes over you and it possesses you, and you get all giddy and you start smiling. If there's something that you encounter that upsets you and angers you, you know, then that's another spirit that comes in you, you know, and it's very unpredictable. It could go either way, you know. But if we sit there and we name, you know, or we know what kind of feelings that we have, and then we're openly ready to communicate them to each other, then I think that's a powerful way to deal with it. And I'll yield on that one.
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, add this in. You guys were talking about the couples that break up. I think Sister Sheek said it, and then Brother Moore said it. But part of the challenge, at least in the context of what we're talking about in this conversation, is the emotions, right? Like, if one adult can't talk to another adult because emotions are present, and those emotions have ran so high for so long, and you either kept them bottled up or you can only speak to another adult in terms of emotions. Like, I say, and I'm not even in the scenario, but I'm just, again, giving a random scenario. I say, I'm going to pick Johnny up by 5, and I get there at 5:15, and you storm at the house, fussing, tussling, because you always late. Because you hold a bottled up expectation of what I should be doing, even though, some mistake, and I'm not in the scenario, I'm just saying, the things that you see happen, somebody has all of this bottled up emotion. Like, you got to let that go, because you're not going to be able to probably facilitate a decent kind of convivial conversation with another adult if you're holding on to bottled up, bagged up emotions. And there's a thing that they teach in what's called conscious leadership, whatever that is. But they teach this in conscious leadership, which the principles I agree, right? If we are in a setting and before we begin to have a discussion on something that, let's say, is going to be flared, tempers may flare, we all agree to I'm talking about the 4 people on the phone, whoever's on the phone. We all agree to not touch our phone devices, and B, talk for 5 minutes and then stop talking so the other person can talk, which is another rule that we try to practice around my house. Like, all right, set the timer, you got 5 minutes, this person. If we agree to that, right, and then you really didn't agree to it but said you agreed, you're ultimately going to break that agreement.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, because you did not agree, you're going to break the agreement. So now put that in the
did not commit, brother, if I can add, did not commit to the agreement. And that's what we're seeing, a lot of non-commitment to what people are doing.
Mommy, that's your brother?
No, so I think I'm saying you committed to the agreement, but knew when you committed that you really didn't agree. That's what I'm saying. Right. Like, I don't know if you've ever talked to another adult. Like, sometimes, I may have a brother or whatever stop by my house, and I had one brother who came by the house, and, he's busy in his business, and every few seconds he kept touching his cell phone. And I had to tell him, while you're a visitor at my house, put your telephone down. If you like to remain a visitor, if not, then leave, right? Because, when you're here or I'm here, it's time to spend time with each other as adult males, right? If you can agree to that, you can stay. If you cannot agree to that, then you can go and just get together with you another time. But I didn't come here. I didn't come here or want you over my house for you to be on Facebook the whole time. No. Like, so we need to set an agreement and commit to that agreement. But if you commit and don't really agree, you're going to break the agreement. So, again, in the context of dealing with emotions, all right, how do you have a conversation with somebody who's continued to hold on to bottled up emotions from, I don't care if it was 12, 15, or 5 minutes ago, right? And I think part of dealing with reason, if that's the proper word, and, my disposition is already like, I pretty much don't care what too many people say. After that, like, I'm ready to move on. Like, I don't want to keep holding on to, let me cycle through my thoughts or feelings and let me move on. But again, I think that when people have bottled up emotions, resentment, bitterness, that is not going to allow you to be able to forgive somebody. You're going to perpetuate that emotion. And now every time something comes up, like the kid who's mad at his dad from not being present when I was a kid, not me again, because same scenario, but I don't feel anything, right? I don't harbor any bitterness, and that's, I think, the power of working sometimes being void of certain emotions. But for the kid, and last thing I'll say is, like, for the kid who continues to hold on to this bitter resentment of their father for not being present, every time they engage with them, until they address that, they're going to be emotional.
Yeah.
Like, in the one time something comes up, they're going to implode on that person or explode on that person because they're holding on to emotion. So I digress there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the strong points in what you were saying, how we need to learn how to name that emotion and deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And then go ahead. I just wanted to add that. If anybody else has something else to add.
Also, what's important is to name that expectation. You know, I always say when I'm asked about women and their role in, you know, the downfall of relationships, and I'm like, it's expectation. This expectation that they're going to meet some Romeo who's going to save them, and they're going to have a glass slipper and a big diamond ring and stuff like that, and not have to deal with a real person. People are real, you know. They're going to disappoint you. They're going to you're going to have miscommunications, and so when I talk about commitment, I try to emphasize that. One time I was listening to the radio, and this guy who had been married, I think, like 25 years, had talked to people who had been married 50 years before him, and he said that the men who told him what it was about, it was commitment. Yeah, you're going to hate your spouse for maybe a few years. I was like, a few years, you know. But if you are committed, it comes back around. You know, you come back around and you are just loving that person. Now, of course, I believe that, yeah, well, you better do the work because people tire out at different times. But how committed are you? How committed are you to someone else's struggle and not how they make you feel? I've had friends who got divorced because they were not happy. And I was like, well, because you're not happy, happiness is a state of mind. So what are you doing to get to that state of mind in your relationship and help your partner get there as well? Oh, nothing. You know, they just want to feel. They just want to feel a certain way. And it's not about your feelings. It's about, you know, your commitment level. And I always cite this, even though people, you know, think it's kind of shallow, but it was real. ATL, when he tells Rashad, you know, you're in your emotions right now, you know, what's real is real and how you feel is how you feel, you know, and those are two different things. And so if you always come to the place where your partner's like, what's real is he's not going to let anybody, you know, talk to me crazy or act a fool, you know, without something to say, you know, and that he truly loves me, then you can deal with everything else. Well, I feel this way about those things, you know, and then how are you going to deal with that? Are you going to communicate? Are you going to dismiss some things because you're like, hey, I feel this way, but what's real is this, you know? So I think we just don't have the skills to do that yet. And then we sit around and you have your single girlfriends telling you, girl, you know, all this other stuff. And it's like, but you're single. You're single. And I'm trying to, I may be venting, but I'm venting on how to make my relationship work. Or I'm venting to find the right words to speak, you know, and not speak in emotion, you know. And so a lot of that goes ignored, and we have to stop taking our friends' advice. You have to try to work it out amongst each other and leave the rest alone.
Yeah. Just chew the meat and spit out the bones, huh?
Yeah. Or if you're on the receiving end of that advice, take it with a grain of salt and understand what you're trying to do. Are you trying to make your family better, or do you really want to go, you know. And people think that, oh, when you meet the right one, you're never going to want to go. You're going to want to go at times because you're like, hey, I don't know what you're dealing with, dude, you know. But then you have to say, I don't know what he's dealing with, but I'm dealing with it a lot too, and he's dealing with it, you know. So how do we, you know, talk? How do we communicate? How do we get those skills to make us both feel worthy and valued and loved? And until we buckle down and figure it out, no generation is going to happen.
Right.
The only thing is to make the environment functional. You know, while you sift through that. So make agreements not to argue in front of kids. Make agreements not to argue in public. You know, make agreements of where the match is going to go down if it's got to go down. You know, and those things help not to make things dysfunctional for children. Because I know people in two-parent households who are messed up.
Oh man!
And it's because their parents were terrible. I mean, like, and I'm not gonna lie, one particular couple is in my family, and we were all traumatized by that. Like, they didn't just traumatize their own children; they traumatized children in the family because it was more than Argentina. You know, it was a lot, and so. You know, while I say commitment is important, it's not more important than your safety and your health. You know, get to a safe place, you know, as soon as you can, whenever you can, if something is going down like that, you know. But otherwise, you know, try to gain the skills that you need to and make some rules around it to protect your children while you do so. Hopefully, what's supposed to be done is you're supposed to have those skills before you deal. And a lot of people don't because we don't even know that a lot of the things we do are toxic and bad.
That's where we need to be realistic about where about like our background and where we're coming from, and like how we still need to heal from a lot of stuff epigenetically still. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a really big deal. That's a huge deal. You know what I'm saying? So like that's where like a rites of passage system, like in a courtship system, no matter what your background is, like that, like your culture is going to have one. Whatever culture you're connected with, like there's going to be one there. Like, so for me, in the culture I connect to, I have a built-in rites of passage system when it comes to courting, when it comes to marriage and whatnot. So I have an expectation and whatnot. Like, so you're talking about like coming to agreements. In the two systems I hold to, there's literally a marriage contract. Do you know what I'm saying? To where like you make these agreements beforehand, and then there's someone who literally holds the contract for you. And when you have a disagreement, you go back to that person and go back to the contract. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like basically, you get married on purpose, and you decide how you're going to deal with each other on purpose. Do you know what I'm saying? And if you're on point with it, you're saying, like, if you're the woman, you're saying, I need you to support me like this, X, Y, and Z. If you're the man, you're saying, I need you to support me like this, X, Y, and Z. You break down how you're going to problem solve and that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. Because it's like you're saying, like it's very important that you're of one accord when you're dealing with that stuff. Because again, division breeds division. But we got to be realistic about what divisions are going to come from us, being that we're broken people in a sense, still trying to love, and so hurt people hurt people. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be realistic about that. I'll leave it right there.
That's so true. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. And I also think that if we don't know how to identify these things, then you know we're just going to struggle, and it would become even more frustrating. You know. And then also another thing I like to add on to is we gotta learn how to let people vent. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody's coming up and expressing and trying to open up and express themselves to you, then we got to learn not to make it about us. No, we got to make it about them, and allow them to express themselves.
Right.
Deal with, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And
All right, breaking news, family. Breaking news. I have an update. I got a question on social media for y'all from Angie, and I appreciate you tuning into the program. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239 if you want to call in, and you can press number 1. Here's the question. It says, who do you blame when it comes to broken homes in the black community, men or women? There is a lot of absentee men in the black home, but at the same time, being a single independent black woman is also glorified. It seems like both sides are damaged and want entitlement. What's your opinion? Thanks for your question, Angie. I guess we can start with Sheek, if you're there. Go ahead. Yeah, Sheek, you there? Yeah, maybe she's not there.
Who is to blame? I just hate that. I just hate that question. Like, who I'm sorry, Angie, but who's to blame? I think we're all to blame. I do think that when we look at what really happened when men started exiting the home, it was not due to welfare, like so many people spill out. Oh, welfare, like. Women can't do that math. Like a 2-income household wouldn't be better than living below the poverty line and receiving assistance and then having to answer to a government. Like, we can't do that math. Of course we know that a 2-parent household or 2-income household would be most beneficial. But yet, we are sometimes as black women accused of being so ignorant that we can't understand that, and we would rather be on government assistance. When the reality is that the increase in poverty is what drove men out of the house. When a man can't feed his family, he leaves. Okay? Well, that's what used to happen. Now we have a new breed where they stay and then they assume the role of the child almost, and where they're like, take care of me while I figure this out, because of kind of like the desensitized, what is that called? Experience of being taken care of by a woman. My mama took care of me. Now you take care of me. And of course, women can't respect that. And of course, women do not come in with the skills of commitment or with the idea of commitment, but actually being saved and swept off their feet. And when that doesn't happen, it's a whole different scenario. And so everybody's to blame. Unfortunately, society creates pitfalls, creates things for our men that, kind of inhabits them or gets them on the wrong track or has them starting behind. And then women react to how men react to what's going on in a negative way with a lack of patience. So we're all to blame. I just feel that the answer needs to be agreed upon, that you stick together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll yield with that.
I would pretty much mimic that, that we're for the most part that we're all to blame, because it just doesn't happen. Like I personally don't believe, nor like most of the people that I've seen. Especially as older people or the elders, when they left the home, when the men were leaving the home, it was because they were going out trying to find work to support the family, So I think it was it was pretty much kind of designed, in a way, and we kind of just feed into it, and then it just trickles down and starts affecting everybody, So I think, like, on the surface, it would seem like the men are to blame, but at the same time, we're all to blame, And then I think it requires a little bit more patience because of the damage that we've been through, you know. And that's not that you just sit there and you just take the abuse or whatever's coming with it, you know, and you have people have a right to feel type of way about it, but I'm just saying, like, just you know, have a little patience and a little bit of understanding, you know, knowing that it just didn't happen overnight, you know, that it's been going on forever, and then the more that it goes on, you know, it just comes like a fire, you know, it just builds, you know, and then it gets to a point to where it's just like real ugly. So I would definitely say that it's everybody's to blame, not just one person. And I'll yield.
Yeah, just wanted to chime in real quick. Angie wants to know which one of them is more prominent in the community, absentee black men or single independent black women. That's the question.
That's a baited,
right?
that's a
So right off the top, I gotta reject the premise of the question and the framing of the question, right? Because both framings of both questions are trying to put one against the other, and so that in and of itself is the issue. Are we together or are we adversaries? If we're adversaries, her questions make perfect sense. But if we're supposed to be together, her questions are repugnant on the outset. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the sister or whatnot, but like I'm saying, like there's if I'm with a woman, you know what I'm saying, like that's my partner, not my adversary. So if we are not successful, that's both of us not being successful together. That's not her fault, that's not my fault, that's our fault. If we make a kid and we don't raise the kid right, that's our fault. That's not. I can't blame that. I cannot blame that. Like what I used to go back. I grew up in a 2-parent household, right? I used to crack up when my parents were like, "Oh, you act just like your mother," or "You act just like your father." You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, cool. Do you expect me to act like someone different? Like y'all made me with that person, right? Like, what do you expect? Like, so we got to be realistic about that. Like, we don't. It's as a unit, we're messing up as a unit. As a unit, we're not successful as a unit. You know what I'm saying? As a unit, we have to recognize what's the responsibility we both have to each other to make each other successful as a unit.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brother Moses. You were trying to say something, Brother Moses?
It was just it was mostly duplicating what he already said, but that's it. I won't add anything else. I think he said exactly what I would have said.
Mm-hmm. And the same here.
Okay. Okay. Well, I agree. I agree that as far as the failure of relationships between black men and black women, that both parties are to blame. But when it comes to absenteeism, fathers, there's no excuse for that. And I don't care, you know, like how much your baby mama is getting on your nerves or anything else. Absenteeism, fatherhood can be solved with people just making up their minds that they're going to be there for their children. And we have these myths about the court system. And I was very surprised when that whole ludicrous case came up with his baby mama, right, or mother of his child, you know, and she lost. And I was like, well, how did she lose? Doesn't it favor the women? Well, I mean, the stats, when you really look at them, no, it does not favor the woman. Every man that I know who has went to family court and fought for custody for their child has gained some form of custody, if not 100% custody. But you have to know that when you show up for child support, you're not in family court. You know, child support is a revenue service. So if you want to fight for rights to see your child, you have to go through family court. Only 5% of men actually go to family court and fight for their children for custody. Of that 5%, 75% win some form of custody. But and Ricky Smiley, who was it? Was it Ricky Smiley who was doing that?
Those sources when you get a minute.
Those sources are found on every child custody website by every lawyer. It's up there. All you have to do is look. At first, I didn't believe it either, but all you have to do is look up child custody lawyer. when you look it up, most of them are going to have those facts up there. And I looked up about 10. Ricky Smiley did a segment. Was it Ricky Smiley? It was somebody in the radio in Texas. He kept on doing a segment on for Black fathers on how to, gain custody of your child and how not to get, messed up by child support. Do you know that most of the men who called in didn't go to court? When you don't go to court, you're the father by default, okay? Keep in mind, the mother who primarily financially supports the child is taking off work to go, okay? And this is why a lot of women just don't go, because a lot of them only get, like, the average court support order for child support is $400 in America. $400, what? That is nothing.
You mean a year? I mean a month?
No, a month. That is nothing. Child care and health care are $1,000 plus. So when you talk about $400, you're not even talking about half of daycare and health care. Okay? So basically, when you look at those stats, you're like, well, what's going on? Why do people feel that way? How is $400 cheaper to keep her?
You ain't never lied about that.
No,
stay together. Stay together.
Yeah, ultimately, if the couple stays together, it's cheaper to keep them. Like you're not, and I'm not saying.
Well,
that,
it's cheaper to keep him if you're talking about $400. A man who is in the house with you is going to spend more than $400 a month on a child. So,
you got to bring that child support topic back around. You got to do that one day.
I think we should bring that out.
Because I got a lot
but
of
people don't know those stats, and they think I'm lying when I say it. But I, you know what? I'm going to post some websites below of lawyers who tell you this. It's the same thing, and every time those people kept on calling. Oh no. Every time, I'm not saying that, but every time those men kept on calling in, the lawyer said, you have to take off work and go to the court. And the same thing that women have to do to get child support, you have to do. And I know a lot of women.
Hold real quick. Sister, clarify something real quick. Teach me something real quick. Clarify, because it's been a long time since I dealt with this system, right? In the current child support system, does the woman have to pay for a lawyer to get child support?
No, you don't have to pay for a lawyer to go to family court. It would be wise to get one if you have.
Hold on, real quick. I was to rewind the conversation. You said something about like a family court look like a family lawyer, correct? So, like, as the man, would I need to get a lawyer to go to go deal with my custody issues?
Not if you have receipts. But you don't even need that if you have receipts. I have paid. Like, I had an ex one time who went to court by himself. He did not have a lawyer. He went to court by himself, but he had receipts that he was paying every month, and gifting his son stuff. He kept all those receipts.
You, with you. So did he go pro se or not?
He represented himself. So
right. So that's pro se. So like, is that the average situation, or is the average individual going to need a lawyer in that situation?
No, the average individual just needs receipts. Sometimes you want a lawyer if you have a woman who has her I's dotted and T's crossed, and she got a strong case and she's going to come against you. You want to get a lawyer. Yeah.
So okay, I don't have receipts, and I'm dealing with a ratchet woman, right? So I don't have receipts. I'm dealing with a ratchet woman.
If she's ratchet, then you should have known that. If she's ratchet,
hold on, sis. You're giving me hindsight. Hindsight is always 20/20. I was just talking about why we get in these bad relationships.
You just found out. Okay, you just found out.
No, I was just talking about like why we get in these bad relationships way back on the conversation, right? So understanding why we get there, we're already there, right? It's already a bad situation, right? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. First of all, like, here's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy that we're in family court to begin with, because if we were organized people who had a cultural system, we wouldn't even be there. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point that I'm starting with to begin with, right? And so now that we're there, right? I really don't want to divert this to a child support conversation because I want to have that with you on the whole other bill because I know we missed that episode and I got
we're
gonna do that.
That's why this should be tabled.
Hold on, so I want to bring it back to a point that you said earlier so we can get back on this topic, right? So you said something about like the men being out of the home started with like a economic situation, right? Like a little
with
job.
poverty. It's actually
right.
a study that was
so,
done.
What's the economic event that you're tying to that for it leading to a mass situation? Because you're not talking about like a small percentage of people. You're talking about like a large concept, right? About a large fatherless concept, right? So what was the economic event that you're saying initiated that?
The economic advantage that initiated.
No event. Like was it like the stock market crash?
No, it was racist. Just like what happens now, it's racist hiring, firing, and promotional activities, and it still happens. This is why there's an article called "It's All About Poverty, Black Poverty. It's All About the Men." I know, but what it says is that Black women who are upward mobile marry black men, and the mobility of Black men's money and their stuff is low. So they said if you raise Black men's mobility and their ability to make money, then you solve the problem in the Black community. So you could be a Black woman who makes $60,000 a year. If you get with a man who makes 24 or even 30, 40, your income goes down. And so this is where I get woman-hating Black men who quote all these stats about how Black women are living in poverty. Well, they are because they have to take care of dependents by themselves, and that includes elderly and parents. And they have to and they marry men who are not adding a substantial amount of money to what they have to take care of. And so the study actually suggested that you increase. They're marrying men who like the gaps are way different than like say white women who marry mostly up. Black women are marrying mostly either they're the breadwinners. I think it said 40 to 80% of Black women are the breadwinners of the home. So once they marry somebody who's earning less than them and they have to take care of more, because keep in mind, when you're a Black man and you come in and you have children and you're paying child support, that's cash flow going out, right? So it's not really adding wealth, it's actually taking away, and that's affecting the wealth of the Black woman.
Where'd you pull that information from?
It's a study called It's All About the Men. And they actually do a study on the mobility, the upward mobility of Black men's, power to earn versus the Black women. And so, And so they said basically the results of the study is that if you increase the Black man's ability to earn, and it will better match the Black woman, it will take them in an upward trend. And we wouldn't have to worry about this. But, of course, we know who intentionally is being put in that through education, et cetera.
When we talk about sorry, my fault.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll share it.
No, please go. No, go ahead, brother.
Please
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say our problem, man, I think our number one problem is that, like, we focus on money as, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't think we should focus on money. I think we should focus on more so on resources and community, And I think that that's one of our main issues is that we've kind of like adopted this ideology that money is like our saving grace. Yeah, money is a powerful tool, but it's not everything, And I know we always compare our lives to other people's lives, like, oh, sister, the Greers, they going out on trips every 5 days, or every other week, they going out over to some extravagant place. So then we want to do those things as well. So we compare ourselves to that, I would tell you like this, like, my parents, my dad, he has a big family, 13 kids altogether. live on Monroe, in the boondocks of, Louisiana, they ain't never had no money. They had just enough to get by, but they was always happy. They was content. They had their food. They was doing farm and everything like that. And they wasn't traveling everywhere. It wasn't really about money then. It was about, did you have a home over your head? Was everybody taken care of? Yeah, okay, we doing good then. You know what I'm saying? And I think in a community like that, nobody trips, huh? Go ahead, Brother Moses.
Can I ask what made you bring that up?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, because she was saying the $60,000, the woman, making more than the man, and then I think that's one of those divisive devices, that kind of tear the family apart, and it animosity.
I think if I heard her point correctly, I think she was bringing up a valid point, right? Now, using resources notwithstanding, if her point was that women tend to go into poverty more because if the man she was attached to and she produced children with is no longer around, and as those children grow, she has to be the primary caretaker for those children, and as her parents age, she has to be the primary caretaker for her parents. And if that's the case, on $60,000, trying to take care of an elder and a child when a man is not present can drive you into poverty. The same way that when you have a woman who lives in a rural setting who was in an agricultural setting and there wasn't really a community around her, and her parents were there, and her man left for any reason, and she had children and parents in a rural setting, she would still go into decay. And it's much more probable because nobody's there to take up the bandwidth. If that's her point, I think, and we way off of emotions or whatever we were talking about originally, the divinity, I guess. If that's her point, then I think that money notwithstanding in principle, that woman going to fall into decay, and that's going to cause her to possibly make other rippling decisions.
Was that the point that you was making, sis? Because I understood it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. That was the point that I was making, is that we cannot move forward. We cannot, pass on wealth to our children and things of that nature without each other. And when we don't have that, because society is, denigrating, if that's the right word, our men, then we end up in a circumstance that we could be making $80,000 and then still have to come up with how to take care of everybody else, and that's the problem.
Yeah. So
what are we gonna do about that?
So. Yeah, I was basically just talking about I thought that you were tying that into why, that question that the sister asked, about whose fault was it leaving, the man or the woman,
No. It's everybody's fault about leaving and not developing the relationship, but the causes as to why has much to do with what societal pressure. And so we can all develop a stance where we're going to stay together, It doesn't matter. But we do need, we do need our men to get on board to say, hey, we need to get rid of the obstacles that we have, develop a trade, get your education, things like that. So that way, or be an entrepreneur and be for real about it, not that you're selling T-shirts, but that you are actually have a whole plan and vision and making steps to achieve that, which is a plan. Because I know when I went to college, there were a lot of men who was talking about their dreams and visions and goals, but they were selling dreams. That's what we call selling dreams. This dude is selling dreams. But he had not made steps or to solidify his plans. And so this is how we got our daughters and saying, okay, this is a good goal, but what steps has he made to solidify this plan? right? And so that makes it a plan, not a dream. Okay,
right.
And it's just like when I hit 30, I met a lot of men who's like, well, I want to get married, selling dreams, because that's not really what they was trying to do. They just knew I was a woman of a certain age, and they was going to start talking that, because that was like my interest. So we have to start qualifying what people are saying by real experience. But however, yes, if our men, first of all, our men are taken down in education. Okay, that's something that I'm working to change now. The school to prison pipeline, all this type of stuff, the discipline data and everything, which parents don't look at. And parents are the consumers, and you have the power, but you're not looking at that. You're not looking at the achievement levels of black students in that school, not the school itself, but black students in that school. So there's a lot of things that we have to learn about the system, and we should be using our social capital given to us by social media to exchange that information. So,
that's
I yield on that.
Can I ask you some emotional logic questions? Sis?
Yeah, I think she put herself
on a minute. My baby is driving me crazy.
Oh, my fault. Hey, So in prep for like our conversation on child support, etc., I want to know if I could ask you a couple like emotional logic questions so I could understand the logic behind how you feel behind certain things. So that's why I was asking about like the economic event, etc. So you were saying that you felt like it started from like the men not being in the home, and the economic event was based upon like racism, etc., whatnot. So are you basically saying? So I understand you or not. Are you basically saying like it was integration that was like the economic event? Because like in a segregated situation, and I'm saying like the one that my father grew up in, we were employing each other. You know what I'm saying? We were like kind of like in our own spots doing our own thing or whatnot, and we were able to amass our own wealth. Like my father's people were able to, for instance, like his grandfather came over from one side, came over from Ohio with some brothers or whatnot, and they bought a whole bunch of land up in Alabama. You know what I'm saying? And they made it to where like they brought a whole bunch of family down, and everybody had a patch of land and all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? They were only just dealing with each other. You know what I'm saying? They were saving with each other. You know what I'm saying? Doing all that kind of stuff. But it was a segregated situation. Like my father, like, so you're a principal, used to be a school teacher. My father went to a segregated school or whatnot. His youngest brother was the only one out of like all umpteen of the kids that didn't go to a segregated school or whatnot. And he has a whole different lifestyle and perception than the rest of the kids that went. In terms of like community strength, etc. You know what I'm saying? So, are you basically saying that it was integration that was the economic event? And on the flip, would you say that in some way, shape, or form, separating from the integrated system would be a beneficial start to do what doing what you're talking about? And she probably got to be mom right now, so no worries. We'll pick that one up when mom got to stop being on the job right quick. You know what I'm saying? But to the brothers, real quick, I'll put that question to y'all. Do y'all feel like integration was like a impetus for what she was talking about? Because when I'm hearing what she's talking about, like it seems like she's talking about like almost like an epidemic type of issue, right? So it seems like something that would have snowballed over time, or there would have been like a snowball starting an avalanche or something like that. What y'all think?
I personally think that it plays a big part in it, you know, because once integration happened, and it kind of like brought in a whole lot of different other ideologies, you know, and I think it played a big part in it, you know, personally.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I had to step outside.
Hey, no worries. No apologies.
Yeah. Okay. Continue. I'm sorry. I haven't been listening. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I wanted to ask you a question. Like, so you were talking about like racist economic practices kind of leading towards like the snowballing of the fathers being out of the home, etc., like the economic event I was talking about. So I wanted to clarify and just understand like the logic behind your any emotion on the situation. So are you saying that integration was basically the economic event? Because basically when we were segregated, we were employing ourselves, and we didn't really we didn't encounter these racist employment practices until we had to go compete in an integrated system. And on the flip, and just if I'm right or wrong, on the flip, are you saying that in some way, shape, or form, stepping back from that integrated system a little bit or something like that is like a step in the right direction?
I think integration policies were a part of it, but integration wouldn't have been a problem if things were fair, So, for example, when we look at a black grocer and a white grocer, they were being charged two different things, right? When we look at homes, there's a clip that my brother Eric Haylock is sharing about how D.L. Hughley lost hundreds of thousands on his home simply because he was black. And that was justified because they're hiding in the home market supply and demand in what Caucasian people want. What they want is, something that we can price high value, and they don't want to live around black people, and they don't want to live behind black people, right? But, of course, we have new people, and this is why gentrification is actually working so well. We have new millennials who are like, I just want to own a home at an affordable price. Well, the reason why it's affordable is because black people live there and nothing else. It's the same house you would get somewhere else, and they're realizing that, and they're like, we don't care about living around black people because they've been raised a little bit differently, right? So they stampede somewhere, and then they say, oh, the supply has gone up, and then it edges everybody else out. So now I can't afford the same house because I anticipated being promoted. This is why I had to pray on any type of promotion that I would receive, because I saw people waiting 9, 10 years, and we talked about this on the education issue, how we have so many, especially black educators, with higher education still in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's still going on. And
right.
There should be policies to prevent, if it's the same house, it should be worth the same no matter where it's located if we're not doing racism, right? But we're just not active enough in the process, which unfortunately a lot of the conscious community tries to peel people away from that process. Which I'm not saying that the process is 101% effective, but getting involved and finding out more about how it works and how to move it, it does work for certain communities. And I could say Dallas, in certain places, you see it. You see affluent black communities making differences about how they are governed.
Mm-hmm.
Faith Johnson was the DA in Dallas, and she was a black woman, but she got voted out real quick because she was handing out like 75 years in jail. To everybody. It was just like she was filling up the jail, and people knew it, and they voted her out. And so even though Texas is a red state, you will see Dallas, you will see Houston, you will see the border cities, you will see Austin, and I think San Antonio all turned blue because that's the majority of where we're at. It's all those out-of-line country places, that you'll see red. So. Mm-hmm.
So, as a black woman, like, so I heard you recognizing the whole economic issue that black men face in this country, right? Like, so I'm asking, is your advice as the black woman for so are you saying so you recognize that you said that if integration was fair, it would have been okay. So recognizing that it wasn't,
right?
Are you saying we should still participate in integration? Should we separate, or is your advice just to participate better, like in the system? Like, What's your advice to me as a black man? Go ahead.
To participate better, but we need to have an alternative. You know, I listen to black men day in and day out urge people to get away from this system, but you have no alternative. So what's the alternative? Are you building an alternative? You know,
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Would the alternative have to already be built for you to participate in the alternative?
Absolutely. And when you have a child involved, yes, that has to be the case, because how am I going to secure a future for because it's not just about you, you know. So how do I secure a future?
Are you familiar with Harriet Tubman?
Yes, I am familiar with her. Mhm.
Like, using that same principle, like, Harriet was different. I mean, historically, she went to outside of Albany, New York, already secured 27 acres of land before she began to take those trips. But how would she convince you that the land exists for you to already conceptualize the plan to want to leave if you didn't physically see the alternative? Will be one question. And would you appreciate the alternative if you didn't help build in the process to create it?
I think, yes, you can appreciate an alternative as long as one is presented. In many instances, one is not presented. And then if it's presented, when it's questioned about the, security of it, and perhaps in ways that that person has never thought of, it is instead rebuked instead of saying, you know what, I didn't think about that. You know, that's something that we can add if you come with me. We can do that together. See, that doesn't happen. It's either you agree with me or I'm going to stomp you down. So now, the thing about Harriet Tubman, though, is that what she presented was freedom, and she knew how to get it, and she already got it. So this is not like a guess. You know, she's done it. She's been there, and freedom itself should be motivation. But there was a place for them to go.
But if you didn't see the place, like, how did they know? How did they know? They had never been there. How did they know there was a place for her to go? How would anybody know?
Free and coming back to them and going and coming as she pleased, something that they were not privy to do. So
I mean, they could have came up with 1,000 different reasons why that was possible. But they still never saw the place. Right. I mean, I think that's the way the mind works. Like, when you don't know, you kind of make it up. But you don't really.
I'm saying that, but today that it is possible to know. Today it is possible to paint a picture, to put a presentation together, to say this is what we're doing and we want you to join us. I mean, this is happening in certain places right now. So, I mean, why not do the work? Why not be professional? Why not understand that people have families and things that they're banking on, and they don't want to uproot, move, and then have to start all over again? Because that has happened. So you're saying
as long as it's presented, like it's in a format, you can see it, you can understand it, it's documented, you can physically have a copy of it, and with all of that evidence, you're saying, hey, I'm more probable that I can. As long as I can get these questions answered and get more surety, I'm all willing to join. Versus you don't have any of that, and you're telling me, okay, I got you.
Right, but here's the thing. We're capable of doing those things. We're capable of looking at what happened to Black Wall Street. Well, what could have changed that outcome? And analyzing that and coming up with those securities ourselves. I mean, if we're not going to look at the past and say, hey, Black Wall Street should have traded with international folks. Black Wall Street should have insurance everything up to the wazoo, so that way if they fall, everybody else falls.
They did, but in fact, they did insure everything, and they rebuilt Black Wall Street afterwards. What killed Black Wall Street was integration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware that they rebuilt it, and it was thriving just the way it was before.
Hey.
Yeah, they rebuilt it a few years later, and they were thriving one more time. But again, when integration, so the economic powers to be recognized. Oh, when we force them to do business together, they do business together really, really well. The dollar circulates, so let's incentivize them to not do that, right? So like again, the concept of black ice became or white ice became colder than black ice during integration.
Is it integration or what each was able to offer? Like I gave the example of the black
so was Black Wall Street
white
prior
grocer.
or post integration? So we were able to.
It was prior too, but we could only go there. We only had the choice to go there.
We had multiple Black Wall Streets. So if you look at it, we had multiple black cities during this time period, right? And so that are separate, like we're thriving on our own, doing our own thing, right? And so I'm saying, like, so we're amassing that wealth prior to integration. Go ahead.
We had to be on our own though, because we could not integrate.
That's the point.
So the
separation.
No. The point is that once we integrated, the black grocer was driven out because they were unfairly given not retail prices but wholesale prices, and therefore their retail was higher than the white grocer who was given a discounted.
Slow down. Hold on. I hear what you're saying, but you got to you can't jump over what I just said though. So I said that Black Wall Street rebuilt itself, right, with insurance money, because they were the insurers. They insured themselves. Okay, they didn't go to some European people to insure. They insured themselves, right? So when integration hit, they chose to stop circulating the dollar with themselves, right? Because they could. Beforehand, they had literally no choice. Hence, they had no choice but to succeed with themselves, right? The moment we had the ability to go outside of ourselves, we chose to do that. So why was that? That's the question, right? Why did that happen?
I think she answered that.
Yeah.
No. Because she's saying instantaneously that white people started treating us crazy in the economic market. No, we had our own economic market.
No,
we had our own. We chose to chop up our own.
No. I don't. If I heard her, hold on, sis. If you don't mind, hold on, sis. If you don't mind,
we created the car before the Model T. We were killing it in the economic market.
Hold on. I think I don't want to hurdle over her point, because I think what I heard her say is if we did trade with ourselves, and I came in the same thing I was buying for you for $10, they collaborated together, sold it to me for $1. Now I can buy more of that because I have 5 mouths to feed. And if that happened, we would not continue to trade with each other.
We were undercutting them when it came to prices. This is how we were killing it in the market. They never undercut us. In fact, they instituted unions. To take us out in the labor market.
I'm saying the dollar amount, the value of the dollar stretching was her point. I'm only repeating what I thought I heard her say.
Right. It's right. So here's what I'm saying. So going into integration, here's the question: why didn't we keep circulating our dollar with each other? Simple question.
She answered that.
We would have to believe that we just wanted to be so, that we were so conditioned, like we just wanted to deal with these people. And I don't believe that now. I went to HBCU and I studied business, and then I went into economics, and what they tell is that we were not undercutting them because we were getting cheated by racist people who were trying to do business with us. It still occurs today. So I would have to see the data on how we were undercutting. And then the fact is that even if you say that they did labor unions, well, labor unions is in everybody's best interest, so nobody is getting fired.
No, they weren't. The history of labor unions was to lock us out of the market, sister. We can have that conversation all day.
Well, no. The labor unions was to lock other people, and it still is being
No, not
used
other
that
people
way.
lock us out. They were created to lock us out of the market.
And it's still being used that way to lock other people out. That's what I'm saying.
So how is this a good thing?
It's a good thing when you come on that other side, and then bosses and institutions want to do you any type of way, which they have done, and they still do, and people are still fighting today. Texas is a non-union
I keep hearing you say that we never integrated properly, so I'm trying to understand what's the benefit of the integration.
The benefit of integration, if if it is done fairly, is that you have access to make more money than with the population
so you're
that
saying
we have
if.
now.
Well, you're saying if, but you keep saying it's unfair to this day. So I'm asking you, Queen, what is the benefit to it?
These policies still continue to this day, which makes it
so why shouldn't we go back to
us.
separating, right? Because I'm saying there was a point in time where we were able to rebuild blown up. Hold on, real quick. We were able to rebuild blown up cities because we were our own insurers, right? We stopped doing that. We stopped doing that. We stopped. So why did we stop buying insurance from ourselves?
Because when you have when you have a pool, look at insurance itself.
Hold on, can I read? Hold on, before you answer that, sis. Hold on, before you answer that.
Go ahead.
That's the same thing as saying there's a 3-bedroom apartment for $1,200 that's black owned, and there's a white 3-bedroom that's just as nice for $400. That's why
that didn't historically happen. That's what I'm trying to tell you, fam. Like, y'all got to give me the facts on
it. But you need more people.
I'll supply the facts. Can you point to a time frame where that happened?
Hold on.
One at a time.
I'm not saying it did. What I am saying is I believe that that's what she's saying.
Got it. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying I can factually point to the time period. I can bring up company names and all that we were selling each other insurance and buying it to the point where we could rebuild a blown up city, right? I'm saying
that was cheaper than
hold on real quick, and I'm saying historically the facts of the matter that are on me to prove at a later date, right? Because you thought we can bring it up later, right? Hold on real quick. I'm saying the facts that I'm saying are on the floor are. Hold on, what?
But we can look at the way insurance works itself. When you talk about 40 million people versus 100 million people pool, right? You're ultimately going to pay less to even be able to build up, and that is how they were doing it.
That's basic economics.
Because
yes.
That's just supply and demand. See, this is the same way that they're doing the housing market.
Real quick,
where white people want to live.
Why we were able to produce things cheaper. We grew them and made them ourselves, right? We did everything in-house versus outsourcing anything. When you look at how Europeans do stuff, they outsource everything. That's why we were able to undercut.
But then we have a problem because now we're blaming it on mindset that people just wanted anything white. It had to be right, and that's not true.
I believe that's
people
what it was.
did enjoy.
I believe that's
people enjoyed their economic freedom, and even when we look at the teacher union, when integration happened, they did not want integration. They wanted desegregation. They wanted access to resources. But what happened is 50,000 educators, teachers and principals got fired immediately across the nation. That is not what they wanted. They wanted access to the same resources. They wanted their kids to be able to go to their schools if it was in their community.
Why do we need that, though?
So real quick, I want you to tell me something.
Why do we need that? Because if I want to give, okay, so clearly we don't see what schools without resources look like and schools with resources look like. Schools with resources look like technology. They're learning the latest things. They're up on the up. You know, their parents have abilities to, come in because they're not working 2 or 3 jobs. If we funded schools equally and allowed everybody to have the resources that they could that they should get for children and not punish them based off of what their family making or the devaluement of property value. My house is the same house as people in Highland Park, but theirs is valued more because white people want to live there, and that's supply and demand, and that's the same thing that took down the process of integration, but it should have been desegregation, meaning that I can get whatever my money says I can get, and that I can get access to whatever resources that I am supposed to.
Here's my thing about it, right? So my dad like I say, they grew up in Monroe, Louisiana. They had a little community, and they had a little store, right? So on hot summer days, there was black people that would pass up their store to go, and they was walking, right? So they would pass up their store to go to the white store and buy some ice and be coming back And while they're watching these people, passing up their store with the ice that they bought from the white people's store, they seeing it melt all on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So personally, I think, like, just from personal experience and from what I see it's a desire to be accepted. Like, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. It should be fair and everything should be fair and everything like that. But my question is, why do we desire those things? Because to me personally, it looks like more of a want than of a need, because we have everything that we need, but then it's like we're looking at the other side of the fence and everything's green over there, so we think it's going to be greener than what we got. You know what I'm saying? So that's my whole point of saying that. And I actually agree with, if I understand his point. I've already butchered your point, but if I understand the Brother Moore's point is, integration kind of destroyed us, because it's like we desire acceptance when we already had everything that we need, and then we went outside of ourselves, and then we got screwed in the process. And I yield on that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that integration wasn't the goal. It was desegregation. It was access to resources, and we still don't have those accesses to resource. We're charged more at a bank because of risk factors that have to do with basically how racist we're treated in this country. So that was the hope of people. And I have the article of the Black educators and what they had hoped would happen from that, and it was not so we can be like white people. That was not it. And I will say that 50 years from now, it's not even going to be that long, that they will look upon our generation and say that we didn't do enough as well. It's always going to be this judgment about people who came before you and who didn't do that. But when people write about the mindset, we need to take heed. We need to understand what they wanted. Like, even Martin Luther King had a change of heart and was like, whoa, I led my people into a burning house. Okay? And when he started talking about the money, when he started talking about the money, he was killed. When Malcolm X said, I'm going to the UN and bring you up on charges and killed. Because when you go after the money, that's what it is. Because the money, the wealth gaps, and the policy that continues today, it continues today, is what's causing those things. It's not that we can't compete. People don't want to compete with us. That's the problem. You don't even want to compete with us. That's why you won't tell. That's why you won't tell history from a multicultural view. Dr. Joy DeGoy-Leary said that the reason why you won't ever see real Black history or the history of slavery ever really taught is because it tells a story about another people. So when we look at the data, and there's an achievement hierarchy specifically in public schools of white, Hispanic, and Black, no matter what the demographic or the numbers are, then you get to see that the curriculum itself is for us, by us, attitude. And of course, our white students have pride in that. They feel like we did this, but the contributions of others is limited to Hispanics, specifically Mexicans, fought a war and lost, and Black people were conquered people who were slaves and undignified. But you won't talk about Nat Turner. You won't talk about the Haitian Revolution. You won't talk about those things that empower them. And so Stanford, upper education knows this. Stanford University did a study on this. And in that study, they found that students who took ethnic studies courses, had better attendance, had better GPAs, and had a better sense of pride. So they know this already, but the curriculum has not changed. And keep in mind, this will be to their benefit as we're in a global society where people who work and make money have to respect people and deal with people from different cultures and societies.
Oh, not to cut you. Go ahead, finish. No, all right,
I'm
so
here.
Okay, so real quick, like that's what I'm saying is the benefit of separating a little bit. Like so, like my father who went to the separatist schools, right? He had nothing but black teachers his whole life, right? And like he literally told like my black teachers would not allow me to fail. And this whole bit of like having like a Eurocentric curriculum, that was not the case. That was not the case. My uncle, who the youngest child. He went the least farthest when it came to the educational background, but he went to the integrated school. Do you see what I'm saying? And so this is what I'm saying. Like, to me, the value of the black woman in the conversation is the fact, like, so men deal with conception, women deal with inception. You want it's like if you build it, they will come, right? I love that aspect of the black woman. Like, if it ain't tangible, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So in that concept, if I respect what you're saying about bring me a plan. I at least need that, right? So would you, as the black woman, be more adept to respond to me bringing a plan of us separating, or me bringing you a plan of us integrating better?
More
or both?
Sorry,
I think it would have
clarification. Just for clarification, when you say separate, what do you mean? Do you mean like physically, like pick up and move away? Or do you mean just like separation in the understanding, like instead of like spending my money with some people that's not going to appreciate it, you go take it to another people and appreciate it, but you still in that society or whatever.
The latter part, where I'm still in the society, right? Like we're still citizens of this country, but we choose to have our choose to have our own schools, we choose to have our own businesses, where we choose to move closer together, etc.
Right.
We choose to have our own communities, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're like, so you see Chinatowns, right? So when you see a Chinatown, it's on purpose. When you see black people together, it's a ghetto. You feel me?
Right.
We need to switch that
okay,
up.
I'm with that.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree too. Okay, go ahead, sis. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Just wanted to understand.
Well, there's a little Haiti as well. There's little Africa as well in different towns. It's just that we come up with a different upbringing.
They get their money. That's what they're supposed to do.
That's right.
I'm talking about.
But they don't understand. Yeah, but and that's nothing wrong with that. But they don't understand the upbringing of an African American and what they're dealing with and the mindset that they have to overcome in order to be that way. I grew up and I went to all black schools my entire life. I went to HBCU. Mm-hmm. I went to majority college for my master's, but by those teachers, I was empowered by that, but it's also where I got the information that we're not on a fair playing field. So I would say until we can get curriculum change, yes, you do need to educate your children in black schools. But we as educators also have to be aware of our students in spaces where they are not the majority, and so we need black educators going there too. Where we see a lot of black educators flocking to is to the black schools to coach and to teach and stuff like that. But then our black students in majority spaces get ignored. And those are the majority of our, collectively, a majority of our people who then set their standard and their aspirations towards assimilation versus having pride in themselves, right? So until we can, we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our children until it could be so powerful if black people said, hey, we need to remove our children because attendance is a part of the money game in education. Remove our children until you start talking about us. Only 8% of the curriculum talks about people of color. Why do we have to go to the movies to watch Hidden Figures and learn about Katherine Johnson when there's a natural real world problem on every unit of an Algebra 1 textbook, right? So,
Go ahead,
we have to start demanding those things, and black parents just aren't at this time. The one black mother who spoke up about slavery being called immigration, that happened in Texas. But black parents need to bond together and say, hey, talk more about us. Talk more about this. Black educators, we have come together in Texas, and we got a petition going about teaching the truth about slavery. It was so many signatures on there, not just black educators, but white educators, Hispanic educators were on that thing. You know what happened? Nothing, because we're not the consumers. Although we are parents and we have children in the education system ourselves, we are not the consumers. We need parents to cry in outrage and together to say, hey, this is what we need. If we're not going to get that, we're going to start removing our kids from these schools, doing co-op, doing homeschool, and leaving that hole in the economy for you as you try to do this. So, but that's not happening because people need babysitters. See, we don't have two-parent households, so we don't have a parent that can stay home. We don't have that one person in the community that everybody can get behind and fund, because people's funds and economics are low because people have not made the decision and commitment to stick together.
So, okay, there we go. I like that because we haven't made the decision to stick together. So to me, that's the overarching point.
Exactly.
Because we got like $1 trillion in the public.
It does start in the
home. We don't spend it with each other. We don't circulate it with each other.
Yeah, hold on, family. Hold on. Let me jump in real quick. We got a caller, actually. We only got a few minutes left on the air, y'all. But great conversations. We got a lot of topics out of this one conversation tonight.
I know that's
we need to touch on. Definitely. Well, let's get this caller right here. Hold on. Let's go to 864. You're live. 864.
Peace and power. I think it's safe for me to say black power. This is your brother Equanese. What's going on?
Hey, what's happening? How you doing?
Peace.
Peace. With you guys, with the sister was bringing some very fundamental keys, and the most fundamental key, and I just got finished speaking with African Center educator, and basically we were at the same place talking about the importance of education, in particular to our black children. To us, as the black adults that were once black children, that I don't think that a lot of us have gotten a fortified education as it relates to, a center that reflects who we are. Like the sister said, we have to learn about historical figures, and the heroes that America deems as heroes. But we do know that once upon a time in America, it was illegal for us as black people to walk around with rights as the white quote unquote citizens or our neighbors. And the reality is that we have to get back to a place of loving ourselves, but we can't properly love whom we don't know. And that's why it is very important for us to have this connection to our divinity via our ancestors, via those very important parts of our, that's what the issue is with us as black people, as black children. Our black children don't lift up those old figures. They are basically hidden figures because they are all, in the books, and they're not just easily at their disposal where they can learn about them. So they have to learn about it through Facebook or through a show like you guys are bringing about. So I do feel like it is of utmost importance to see, our children at that place. And until we are at that place, right now we are lifting up our children, know about Cardi B. This is the reality. Our children know about LeBron James, Michael Jordan. They know about Tiger. They know about Young Thug. All of these people that, Future, that promote drug usage, that promote drug selling. And this is what the system is wanting. So in my opinion, I don't feel like the system that has been embedded and actually been able to win due to slavery, I don't ever think that they are going to benefit us or teach our children the substantial education in which they need to know, because then we won't be the consumers that are just going out here doing the bonehead, brain dead things, just living to buy Jordans. We're going to then start making substantial endeavors with our money, and we're going to invest our money when our culture is the one that starts to pride themselves at, hey, I went out and made an investment. Now I'm cool. Not I'm cool because I went and did some bonehead stuff like throw up $100 and I didn't even know how I was going to pay my rent. You know, this is the stupid stuff that is promoted to our children, but it's something that, you know, through this show and through our conversation, constant conversation, hopefully we can rid ourselves of.
That's powerful. Hey, you know what? I want to nominate that what you said as saying of the night. You said we cannot love who we don't know. I think that was a very powerful statement. Very powerful. And I would like to ask you a question right now in terms of just what we were just talking about. Do you think that separation is best for us? You know, like in terms of not necessarily picking up and moving away and going somewhere else, but separating, just starting to deal with each other and messing with people who really have our best interests in mind. Or would what would you say that? Go ahead, brother.
I would say internally, inside building our community, our nation up, we should be wanting to do that from the inside out first. You know, looking to establish our businesses. Even if we're going to open up a school, having teachers that look like us, you know, hopefully, and teaching our children first. Yeah, later on down the road, if we are teaching white folks or Chinese people about the greatness of black folks, hey, that is great. You know, teach them, have them being at a displace where our children are now, where they can't find a white figure because we are now, just plastering all black figures up. So I'm not mad at that, even on the economic scale. If we're going to now have businesses and things of that nature, I feel like we need to be doing the core business with each other, meaning that we as the customer, the consumer, should have an obligation and a duty to go in and support our black business owner. Our black business owner should have the first and foremost, they should have it as an agenda to hire their own first, like the Chinese people do, just as the Mexican people do. So I feel like, yeah, we do want Mexican consumers. We want Mexican white consumers. But first, we want to have the devotion of our own black consumers where they're coming and where we're giving them bargains and deals, like similar to the ones that we don't see and we're not privy of, that the white business owners are giving, to the white consumers behind our backs. So I feel like, this is going to be very important for us to separate, even if we aren't going to another continent. And I'm definitely for repatriation, going back to Africa. But those of us that can't, we still can separate via the mentality, via the miseducation, as the sister spoke of. We can separate ourselves from that to now start maybe even educating our children at home, maybe even starting to, rather than taking your children out, looking for, an institution or looking for a fast food restaurant to feed and sustain your children. Hey, let's go, raise your own cows, going out and planting your own garden. I think these are substantial, sustainable conversations that would benefit us if we choose to stay here in America, or even if we choose to, go abroad. But I think us, and just to wrap it up, I'm sorry, but just us as the divinity ourselves, looking at that as being the asset, because we all are reflections of Natel, of God, of, the great creator. So looking at the bond with our brother, my grandmother told me self-preservation is the first law of nature. So if you're looking for a God to look like anything, you need to look in the mirror and you need to take care of that one first, and take care of, what God or the creator has blessed you in. And I'm going to assume that's being black. So we want to take care of our people, take care of ourselves first before we go and try to be friends with everybody else. So, hey, I'm pretty sure that this conversation, this show, is going to be a one for the archives, that can serve itself as being a navigational tool for us and our people, brother.
Hey, hold on, brother. Before you go, I think the sister wanted to say something to you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Sorry about that, Sister Sheek. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you for your comments, and I do think if we can't get a fair share, then we have to agree on how to proceed internally into where the systems involved will have to take notice. And if they're not going to do so, then we have to serve ourselves. But that takes people committing to us. You know, I taught at a black school in Dallas, Carter. Y'all may have seen the movie, and the community is so strong. The alumni is so strong behind that school. You just know it's not going to fail. But we need people, and they have a vigilante team that's looking at the data, that's looking at where the money's going and everything like that. Now, keep in mind, my high school in Colorado fell because investors came in. And so that's another thing. Investors came in and they infiltrated the school system, and it got them to close that school down and open it up again as something new, so that way they could sell those houses around there. And so we have to understand what's going on in the system, and then we need to respond in a way collectively, and in a way that that lets them know that, okay, you don't have to miss our dollars, but you will be missing our dollars if that's the case. You know, when I went to HBCU, there were people who was like, why are you going to HBCU? Because I'm going to HBCU, you know, and they educated black children, and not just black children, anybody who attended, on the system put in place to put us down. But we cannot effectively destroy a system while still participating in it. Send your child to that neighborhood school. If everybody does it, then that money is going there. Then the prestige will come back there. The spirit will come back there. But that's not happening. So we can't even get right now black parents to agree to send their kids to the neighborhood school where everybody lives to fund it. So I do agree to an extent with Orthodox Moor that there needs to be some sort of separation in that we are supporting ourselves, that we are saying, well, if you're not going to serve us, we must serve ourselves, and so we have to exclude ourselves here. That's when we exclude ourselves, when we're not being served. And the data supports that we are not being served in education, in medical, in economics, in legal, and everything else. So until we do have to look at our establishments. The problem is that we have black people who distrust black people. If I send my child to the black school, what happens? You know, and again, I have family members like, oh, they went to the black school, so, you know, their teachers and this body works for corporate America because they went to the white school. That's not why. It's because of the availability of funds to fund the education. So when you have your parents paying for everything and your rent and your this and that, then you can take internships in other states and work it and, you know, take hold of those opportunities. And that happens at a black or a white school. Unfortunately, in most black schools, you cannot fund where you live and fund another place and fund education, you know. So therein lies the problem. So we just have to, you know, understand the systems, demand what we need from them collectively, and then separate collectively if we cannot get our needs met. So.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
All right, family. We only got a few minutes left in the air, so I want to make sure that everybody gets their last words in before the time runs out. Again, I appreciate all the co-hosts of the program. You know, we added more people to the show to give you guys more content, you know, more information. So, of course, I appreciate the new additions to the show, making it bigger and better. So, once again, looking forward to the future segments of the Social Hub, the brand new segment on Debate Talk for You. Let's get some last words, though. I mean, we already Elijah Moses is gone. He left already. But let's go to Vinny. Last words.
Who?
Vinny D. Vinny D.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just want to say thanks for everybody for listening. Thank you, Sal. for the platform. Also, thank you for everybody that participated, Brother Moore, Sister Sheikah, Brother Moses, Sister Jennifer, and also Sister Reese. And I know that divinity word kind of has all kind of different connotations, just like every other word. But I definitely agree that togetherness between the man and the woman creates that one supreme divinity. I mean, not saying that we're the most high or anything, but just to bring us back to our divinity. And I also agree with everything that was said on the panel. I really do think that one of our main problems is like a desire for acceptance. And until we lose that desire for acceptance, and when I say a desire for acceptance, just looking at basing it off of what we see, say BET awards versus the big time awards that the white people have, or we got a basketball league, or you want to go to the NBA, the old Negro League, or you want to play in the MLB. We always have what they have, but we always want to. There's like the desire to be accepted, and I definitely think that until we shake that desire and we get back to our own communal roots and focus more on what we need than what we want, then I think that we'll have a big problem getting back to our divinity. Anyway, peace and blessings to everybody, and shalom to you guys.
I appreciate you, Vinny D. Let's go to Orthodox Moor. Last words.
Yeah, shout out to the panel, shout out to Sal, and shout out to the Queen that came up with the topic. I think this is a great topic that we talked about tonight. Even all the side topics we jumped into. I look forward to finishing those conversations and whatnot. Again, I come from that tradition to where on a masculine side, we should understand that wisdom is a feminine principle, and then also the concept like the Most High doesn't recognize you until you're at an understanding of what your woman needs. And so no matter what tradition you come from, you have some kind of rites of passage, some kind of information that you can cling to that breaks down this relationship between man and woman in a divine way. So I'm saying we do our best to connect to that and uphold that. And we should definitely, on purpose and with a purpose, start redevising our own rites of passage for ourselves and for our community. But with that, I say peace to the panel, peace to Sal, peace to the Queen who came up with the topic, and peace to the chat. This was a great conversation. I'm glad to have been a part of it.
All right, man. I appreciate you for coming on the platform. And last, we have Sheek. Last words. Principal Sheek. I'm going to call you now. Principal Sheek. There we go.
I want to say thank you to the panel. It was definitely a great discussion. Unity starts in the home, but it's enforced by the community, and we need to first master that and become used to being accountable to one another. And then after that, commit to sticking together through our obstacles and through our problems, and understanding that we still have yet and we still need to acquire the skills to build, something that was taken from our ancestors over and over and over again. And then when we're not being served at tables, we need to have the strength and have the unity to be able to say we're not being served at this table. It is detrimental to us, and we have to move together to create a table of our own that we can eat at. So with that, I say shalom to everyone. Thank you so much for everyone on the panel. It's great to have enlightening and progressive conversation.